The vibes could not be much higher surrounding this Philadelphia 76ers team following their statement victory over the Boston Celtics, in which they put the rest of the NBA on notice on why they still must be a team that people should be paying attention to. In this video, I want to break down why the vibes are so high here and why they are a little darker across the country, where the man who has coined himself the system looks like he is leaking oil. Before I dive fully into it, I do want to make sure that you guys are hitting that subscribe button. That at this point in time, 82.8% of you guys watching the video have not subscribed to the channel just yet. Now is the time to get on board the Sixers hype train. That the vibes are good, things are high, and I have plenty to talk about. I'll be here to break things down start to finish this season. I want each and every one of you to be a part of the Sixers Digest family. Appreciate all the love and people supporting so far, and much more on the way that I promise to deliver on. And to bring up the topic of the day is James Harden. And the biggest thing, we all saw the quote of him calling himself the system, that at his media press conference with the Clippers, he said, quote, "I'm not a system player, I am the system." And Harden went into detail a little bit here, talking about he felt like he was on a leash in Philadelphia, talking about he was under control, didn't have the stylistic freedom. And we're going to push to the side the fact of the matter that he was second across the entire NBA in individual time of possession, that only Luka Doncic held the ball in his hand physically more than James Harden. So a little bit contradicting to the statement there. But regardless, the system does not seem to be in full effect. At this point in time, the Clippers are 0-2 in the James Harden era. It's very clear that this is going to take some time. This is mostly an issue of finding a way for these guys to get on the same page, and it has not happened yet. Point blank, it has looked ugly for the Clippers, and James Harden has been the guy catching a lot of the heat. And at the top of the list for the people turning on James Harden is the James Harden stands whatsoever. We saw this one leak into the Sixers Reddit here, but that Harden needs to be benched. The Clippers fans not enjoying the trade. There also was the this tweet here talking about him, "You left a title contender to go to whatever this is," by James Harden. Shout out to Lagoted One. He was a guy that I came familiar with in his Harden's tenure with the Sixers, an active Harden stand there. James Harden absolutely does have his ride or die guys, but it's tough to ride or die with a guy who actively looks like he does not fit on a team, who refuses to catch and shoot threes, and is just not fitting on the same way. I mean, not to pour salt into wound, but what was this pass?
Tremendous rejection by Paul George. Harden, that's coming my way.
And I think that's what's so bizarre to me is there's not been a question about James Harden if he's still a good basketball player. He obviously still is. You can make the fit discussion, but there always seems to be something wrong with James Harden. That there never seems to be things going 100% according to plan. And I do want to give a shout out to Howard Beck of The Ringer here, who wrote this. I thought this was a beautiful piece of written literature right here, so I'm going to pull this up and read it in its entirety. And he begins by saying, "Back in 2012, after a steady rise in Oklahoma City, what Harden wanted most was a trade to Houston, along with a max salary and a starring role. The Thunder and Rockets obliged, and Harden has been getting everything he's wanted, requested, or demanded ever since. Complete control of the offense, the Rockets gave it to him. A superstar tag team partner, the Rockets got him Dwight Howard. When Harden grew weary of Howard, the Rockets dumped him. When Harden wanted Chris Paul, the Rockets got him. When Harden grew tired of CP3, the Rockets swapped him for Westbrook. And when Harden lost faith in the Rockets entirely, they traded him to Brooklyn at his request so that he could play with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. When Harden lost faith in the Nets, they traded him to Philadelphia at his request so that he could join Joel Embiid. And when James Harden lost faith in the Sixers coach Doc Rivers, they fired him. And still Harden wasn't satisfied. If this were a children's book, Harden would be the very hungry caterpillar, except instead of chewing holes through apples, plums, and leaves, he chews through teammates, coaches, and franchises. And instead of turning into a butterfly, he just develops into an incredibly embittered caterpillar, unable to evolve at all." Some bars from Howard Beck there. Now, some of this was a little strong, I will say, that I do like where the sentiment is. I do like where his head's at, but there was plenty of circumstances that played into these things. But the facts are still the facts of James Harden. If we want to make another storybook comparison here, is nothing is ever right for him. That this one's too hot, this one's too cold. There's no just right spot for him in the NBA. So that's what has been frustrating. And if I was a James Harden stan, which I'm happily that is not a part of the fan base that I've taken a part of, I would be frustrated with this guy as well. Because he did just walk away from a Sixers team that has a chance to do something special. That they were a team that had the Celtics on the ropes in the semifinals last year, up 3-2 in a series that James Harden played up and down in, but had his moments where he shined. and instead he's choosing to walk into a much tougher Western Conference on a much less complete team. As this is pointed out once again, you left a title contender to go whatever this is, because there is no doubt in my mind that the Sixers are more legitimate title contenders than the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, I don't want to be naive and think the only reason the Sixers are having success or look improved thus far is because of the loss of James Harden. In fact, I can make the argument that James Harden has helped this team in a major way. For starters, he helped Maxey progress in the way that he has. He also got Doc Rivers fired, which is a major point of emphasis and excitement surrounding this team, that Nick Nurse is the man in charge. And number 3, he brought some valuable players back in the trade. That Nick Batum looks like a perfect fit on this team. KJ Martin is an exciting young piece that could be around. Robert Covington, it's awesome to have him back in Philadelphia, and he's made some strong plays on the defensive end already. We have not seen much of Marcus Morris yet, but that's another piece that could be valuable at a point in time this season. This is the deepest Sixers team that I've seen in my entire lifetime, and I do have to tip my hat to James Harden as a thank you for that. And this is not even considering the fact of the draft picks that were added and the ammunition that is stacked to go get an even better player before the trade deadline and truly elevate the Sixers team to a championship contender. But Nick Nurse seems pretty satisfied with what he's seen so far. And I want to pull up this quote from Nick Nurse here when he was asked about the Sixers following last night's win. And he said, quote, "We've got an interesting team. We've got an emerging young star in Tyrese. We've got an unbelievable player in Joel. And we've got a lot of athletes that are pretty talented around them to give us some depth. I like this group a lot." I love that quote from Nick Nurse, and the reason that I love it is because this is everything that we've wanted and everything we've fought for so long. That is the system. The system is not James Harden. The system is get Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and surround them with as many athletes who can shoot the three as possible. That is the way that this Sixers team can elevate to a championship team. That is the system, and we are seeing it put in place. And the best part about this is there's all these depth pieces. There's all these different ways that this Sixers team can win. That last night when they took down the Boston Celtics, it was in a different way than I've ever seen them beat this Celtics team with these current cores before. That if we flash back to last year, the way that they beat the Celtics was either one of Joel Embiid or James Harden going crazy. That it took them being incredibly efficient in the half-court setting, being dominant and scoring on a high level for them to get the victory. That was far from the script last night. That the Sixers have more athletic, versatile bodies that they can throw at guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was held to 11 points on 13 shots last night. Jason Tatum, 16 points on 14 shot attempts. That is, if you were going to live with that 1,000% of the time if you are the Sixers. But they have not had these options to throw. I want to give an additional shout out to Kelly Oubre Jr., who I've talked about a decent bit on this channel already. Oubre continues to get the starting role, and it's looking difficult to take him out of him at this point. He set the tone last night for the Sixers team. That the opening tip came right to Kelly Oubre. He immediately drove down, dunked it, and then picked up Jason Tatum 94 feet. That is the type of effort, the type of set-the-tone nature that will endear you to a fan base and help your team win ball games. I'm very impressed with the way that Kelly Oubre has answered the call, especially on the defensive side of the ball, how active he's been. And ultimately, there's more directions that the Sixers team can go. And Nick Nurse decided to do that last night. That ultimately, down the closing stretch, he went with Nico Batum over Kelly Oubre Jr. in crunch time, per Austin Krell of 97.3 ESPN, because he liked the communication and schematic execution that Batum brought into the game. Also, shout out to Nico Batum, Nick or Nico. He's always been gone by Nick, but seems to want to be called Nico this year, so, whatever he desires. But shout out to Nico Batum for coming back into that game, because he had an ugly, ugly broken finger that I don't even want to pull up on the screen right now, right before halftime, and he did not miss a beat coming right back in the second half and playing some high-impact minutes. He's a guy that I do see sneaking into this starting lineup. I think at this point in time, it's more likely that D'Anthony Melton is the guy who gets regressed to a bench role, but there's plenty of time to figure these things out. And even other pieces, if you want to dig deeper into this bench, Patrick Beverly is a guy I think deserves some shine, who has stepped up in some big moments. He finished last night with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. He's the littlest guy on the floor, barely 6 feet tall, and he's grabbing rebounds and big rebounds too, in big moments that the team needs. And he also was pulled off the bench for that final possession where the Celtics had a last-second shot. It ultimately resulted in Kristaps Porzingis taking a three-pointer. But it was Patrick Beverly being the guy guarding Jason Tatum, denying him the ball from the sideline. That kind of stuff matters on this team. And the Sixers just have more guys, more dogs, more athletes, more competitors, guys that are willing to leave it all on the line, and it is resulting in team success. This is a different identity than I've ever seen from this Sixers team before, and it is only going to get better. That Nick Nurse said that a lot of the holes that he saw defensively were simply things that they have not gone over enough in practice yet. He said that they don't even have 50% of their defensive sets set in stone yet, or everybody on the same page. That is scary considering the Sixers are one of 4 teams in the NBA in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating. And to think that this is far from a finished product is incredibly encouraging. So for the moment, let's everybody take the foot off the gas. Forget star hunting, forget looking around. Let's let all these teams fall apart, get desperate, and let the Sixers continue on their way. There will be plenty more of a sample size to read and figure out what this team truly needs. But for now, it looks like nothing. It looks like this is the most complete team that I've seen with the Sixers. And it's cool to see them trend away from this star hunting, this mindset of needing the big superstar, to they just have a bunch of guys that compete, win, are on the same page, and play together. That is what basketball is about. That's what the NBA has gotten away from, and it feels like there's a resurgence in team basketball. I'm happy to see the Sixers leaning into that, to being a part of that, and I do believe that is the key to getting them over the hump. Who knows if it will be this year, but I'm much more optimistic than I was heading into the season, and incredibly more optimistic than it was when the James Harden cloud was hanging over this organization. That cloud has cleared. It is sunny day in Philadelphia, and I cannot wait to see what the rest of the season has in store. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what your opinion of James Harden is now, looking back at this point in time, what you think is going on in Los Angeles, and ultimately your outlook for the Sixers from here. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, and I'll be back right here on Sixers Digest with plenty more content soon. Peace.